coolest thing in the world. There's like flags on the wall that are just like gently billowing in the air conditioning, like ghosts. The hallway lights up as you walk alongside it because it's like a green building, and they disappear behind you. And there's no one there. I can go down to the gym at like 2 o'clock in the morning at the CIA, and it's like not see a soul on the other side of the building and then go all the way back. And this kind of thing was my end, because they were like, look, it's the night shift. Nothing that bad is going to happen. But it was on a very senior technical team that was basically handling systems administration for everybody in the Washington metropolitan area, right? So every basically CIA server. This is a computer system that like data is stored on, the reporting is stored on, and traffic is moved on. All
in 1,000 feet, turn slightly right onto Islands Highway.
This stuff. Suddenly, me. This is circa 2005, I think. I'm in charge of. And it's just me and one other guy on the night shift. And if you're interested in the book, there's a lot of detail on this. But I get sort of scouted from this position because they realize I actually know a lot about technology. They were expecting me just to...
Now turn slightly right.
Basically make sure the building doesn't burn down, all these systems don't go down overnight and never come back up. But they go, well, are you willing to go overseas? And to a young man at that age, that's actually like, hey, that sounds kind of exciting. Who doesn't want to work overseas for the CIA? And there's a lot of people listening to the podcast who are like, not me. Because they're like, wait, the CIA's the bad guys. Right? Yeah, exactly. They're like, are you going to go overthrow the government somewhere? But you have to understand that I'm still very much a true believer. The government is like the living, compressed embodiment of truth and goodness and light, you know, the shining city on the hill. So I want to do my part to spread that to the world. I didn't have skepticism. It is really what I'm trying to establish here. And so I sign up and I go through this special training school, like people hear in movies about the farm, which is down at Camp Peary in Virginia. I'm sent to this actually much more sacred facility called The Hill, which is in Warrenton, Virginia. This has been covered a few times in open source media, but I think this is one of the few book-length discussions about what happens there in permanent record. Yeah, so I go through training and then I get assigned overseas, and I end up in Geneva, Switzerland, undercover as a diplomat, right? I think I'm my formal title for the embassy is like something super blandly diplomatic attaché. And what I am is I'm a forward deployed tech guy. They send you through this school to make you into kind of a MacGyver. Right? Yes, you can handle all the computers, but you can also handle the connections for the embassy's power systems, right? The actual electrical connections. You can handle the HVAC systems, right? You can handle locks and alarms and security systems. Basically anything that's got an on button on it at the embassy that's secure, now you're responsible for. And I traveled from Geneva to other countries in Europe for sort of assignments, and it was an exciting time. I actually still enjoyed it, but this was where I first, working with intelligence, started to get doubts, and the story's been told many times, so I won't go over it in full detail here. But the CIA does primarily, it's not the only thing they do, what's called human intelligence. Now, there are many different types of intelligence that the intelligence community is responsible for. The primary ones are human intelligence and signals intelligence. You want to think of signals intelligence, right, as tapping lines, hacking computers, all of these sort of things that provide electronic information, anything that's digital or analog signal that can be intercepted and then turned into information. Human intelligence is, you know, all that fun stuff we've heard the CIA doing for decades and decades, which is where they try to turn people. Basically, they say, look, we'll give you money if you sell out your country. They don't, it's not even your country a lot of times, it's your organization. These guys could be working for a telecommunications provider, and they want to sell customer records, or they work at a bank, which was the thing that I saw, and we wanted records on the bank's customers, so we wanted a guy on the inside. But anyway, that's sort of how it works. And what I saw was they were way more aggressive for the lowest stakes than was reasonable or responsible. They were totally willing to destroy somebody's life, just on the off chance they would get some information that wouldn't even be tremendously valuable. And so, you know, ethically that struck me is a bit off, but I let it pass because what I've learned over my life short though it's been. It's that skepticism is something that needs to build up over time. It's a skill, something that needs to be practiced, or you can think of it as something that you develop through exposure, right? Kind of like a radiation poisoning, but in a positive way. It's when you start to realize inconsistencies, or hypocrisies, or lies, and you notice them, and you give somebody the benefit of the doubt, or you trust them, or you think it's all right. But then over time, you see it's not an isolated instance, it's a pattern behavior. And over time, that exposure to inconsistency builds and builds and builds until it's something that you can no longer ignore. Now, after the CIA, I went to the NSA in Japan, where I was working there in Tokyo. And then from there, a couple years later, I went to the CIA again. Now I was working as a private employee for Dell, but I was the senior technical official on Dell's sales account to the CIA. People, these big companies, they have sales accounts to the CIA. And so this means I'm going in, and now it's crazy because I'm still a very young man, but I'm sitting across the table from chiefs of these enormous CIA divisions. I'm sitting across from their chief technology officer for the entire agency, or the chief information officer for the entire CIA. And these guys are going...
In a quarter of a mile, turn right to join the Interstate 95 north towards Savannah.
I mean, look, here's a problem, here's what we want to do. And it's my job to pitch them a system, right? And I'm paired up with this sales guy. And the whole thing is just go, how much money can we get out of the government?
Now turn right to join the highway.
Right? That's the whole goal. And we'll build them, what we were pitching was a private cloud system, right? Everybody knows about cloud computing now. It's like why your Gmail account is available wherever you can go. It's why Facebook has this massive system of records for everyone everywhere.
Route recalculated.
The government wanted to have these kind of capabilities too. Dell ended up getting beat out by Amazon. People, some people aren't familiar with this, many of them are. But Amazon runs a secret cloud system for the government. I forget what they've rebranded it now. But this is just, there's this massive connection between industry and government in the classified space that just goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. But at this point, I was already, I had misgivings because of what I'd seen in Japan about government, but I was just trying to get by. I was trying to ignore the conflicts. I was trying to ignore the inconsistencies. And I think this is a state that a lot of people in these large institutions, not just in our country, but around the world, struggle with every day, right? They got a job, they got a family, they got bills, they're just trying to get by. And they know that some of the things they're doing are not good things. They know some of the things they're doing are actively wrong. But they know what happens to people who rock the boat. Eventually, I changed my mind. And when I had gone to Hawaii, which was the final position in my career with the intelligence community, I was, because of an accident of history here, I wasn't supposed to be in this position at all. I was supposed to be at a group called the National Threat Operations Center, NTOC. But because of the way contracting works, and again, this is covered in the book, I ended up being reassigned to this little rinky-dink office that nobody's ever heard of in Hawaii, called the Office of Information Sharing. And I'm replacing this old-timer who's about to retire, really, really nice guy. But he spent most of his days just reading novels and doing nothing, and letting people be content to the fact, or letting people forget that his office existed, because he was the only one in it. There's a manager who's like over him, but it's actually over a larger group, and he just looks over him as sort of a favor. So now I come in, and now I'm the sole employee of the Office of Information Sharing, but I'm not close enough to retirement that I'm okay with just doing nothing at all. So I get ambitious, and I come up with this idea for a new system called Heartbeat. And what the Heartbeat is going to do is connect to basically every information repository in the intelligence community, both at the NSA,
Railroad crossing ahead,
and across network boundaries, which you normally can't cross. But because I worked at both the CIA and the NSA, I knew the network well enough, both sides of it, sides that normal workers at the NSA would never have seen, because you have
railroad crossing ahead,
to be on one or the other. I could actually connect these together. I could build bridges across this kind of network space. And then draw all of these records into a new kind of system that was supposed to look at your digital ID, basically your sort of ID card that says this is who I am. I work for this agency. I work in this office. These are my assignments. These are my group affiliations. And because of that, the system would be able to eventually aggregate records that were relevant to your job, that were related to you, and then it could provide them. And basically, you could hit
In a quarter of a mile, turn right onto Grant Street and then turn right.
this site. It would be an update of what we used to call read boards, which were manually created. They would go, look, you work in network defense, right? These are all the things
Now turn right and then turn right onto Martin Road.
that are happening on network defense. You work on, I don't know, economic takeovers in Guatemala. You know, this is what's going on for you there. But in my off time, I helped the team that's
Route recalculated.
next to me, which was a systems administration team for Windows networks, because I had been a Microsoft certified systems engineer, which means basically I knew how to take care of Windows networks. And this was all those guys did, and they always had way too much work, and I had basically no work that I needed to do at all, because all I was supposed to do was share information, which was not something that was particularly in demand, because most people already knew what they wanted or what they needed. So it was basically, my job was to sit there and collect a paycheck, unless I wanted to get ambitious. And so I did some side gigs for these other guys, and one of them was running what were called dirty word searches. Now, dirty word searches are, let me dial this back, because I know we're sort of, this is hard
In a quarter of a mile, turn right onto North Coastal Highway.
to track. Everything that the NSA does, in large part, is classified. Everything the CIA does, in large part, is classified.
Now turn right.
If I made lunch plans with other people in my office, it was classified. That was the policy. It's dumb. This overclassification problem is one of the central flaws in government right now. This is the reason we don't understand what they're doing. This is why they can get away. This is why they can get away with breaking the law or violating our rights for so long. 5 years, 10 years, 15, 50 years before we see what they were doing. And it's because of this routine classification, right? But every computer system has a limit on what level of classified information is supposed to be stored on it. And we've got all these complicated systems for code words and caveats that establish a system of what's called compartmentation. And this is the idea: when you work at the CIA, when you work at the NSA, you're not supposed to know
Route recalculated.
what's happening in the office next to you, right? Because you don't have need to know, right? Again, that thing from the movies. And the reason they have this is they don't want one person to be able to go and know everything, right? Tell everybody everything. They don't want anybody to know too much, particularly when they're doing lots of bad things, because then there's the risk that you realize they're doing so many bad things that it's past the point that we can justify. And they might develop sort of an ideological objection to that. Well, in the Office of Information Sharing,
Route recalculated.
actually,
In 900 feet, turn left.